There we go. We Gucci. Okay, let's go. I appreciate you tuning into our guest of the week here, Nick, where we kind of each week we try to bring in a content creator, athlete, whoever we can to talk about Bears, football, whatever we want to talk about. So important time of the season for the Chicago Bears, the off season, and we'd love to do a little introduction for yourself, a little bit about how this show works. Obviously, we have the live stream, but a lot of the magic and fun happens with the post-production clips and edits, and we'll tag you and all that fun stuff. So for any of the people in my community who may not know who you are in the pages that you have, if you want to just do a quick little introduction. I know I've seen a lot of your content over the last couple of years since I started this page. So you have a couple pages, I believe, with just another year Chicago Bears and the Cubs I saw. So if you want to give a little elevator pitch, I'm happy to clip it and just post it through our Bears Nation, and people can start engaging with your stuff as well.
Yeah, thanks, man, for having me on. My name is Nick Rohde. I run Just Another Year Chicago, and we have multiple outlets, mainly known for the Bears. That's where it all started. But yeah, we've been doing it for about 4 years, and we started the name Just Another Year, considering the fact that it feels like Chicago sports. It's just another year. Either they have a really good roster, they just can't do anything with it. We have a really good roster, but the head coach stinks, aka the last two of them, or just overall they make it so far and then they just lose in the first round anyway. So that's how Just Another Year started during COVID. I was just talking about sports nonstop with family, friends, and they're like, hey, you should start something. So I've been doing it for a while now, player interviews, post-game, pre-game, up-to-date news all the time, posting daily. So you can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Twitter. We do have an Instagram for the Just Another Year Chicago Bears and Cubs pages. We are starting a Bulls one very soon. Shout out to my man Phil for starting the Bulls page, where we're growing pretty fast there, and the Bulls are red hot. Ever since we started the page, they're 9-3, so can't complain. But I love Chicago sports. I've loved it my whole life, and content creation is a whole new ball game, my friend. It makes you look at everything so much differently.
No, 100%. And since we're talking there, we can talk a little bit of Bulls. Since they got a game tonight, I think it just tipped off against the Raptors, and if they win, full disclosure, I'm a Bulls fan, but they've been pretty bad last couple of years. So, and the way they run
another year,
just another year, and the way they run operations over there, I don't invest too much of my energy because the Bears already give me enough stress and heartbreaks. But technically a Bulls fan, pay attention to what's going on, and I know they've been in a little bit of a win streak lately, except the last couple nights, and they play the Raptors tonight. And I believe if they win, they clinch a play-in game. So you who might be a little bit more of a diehard Bulls fan, how do you feel about them if they make the play-in? Like, are you on the side of they should just straight up be losing to kind of get a better lottery chance, or like what are your thoughts on the Bulls right now? Because there's a lot of people like Oscar in our community want the Bulls to win. People that are probably like want the long-term future want them to lose to get better draft capital.
No, you play the game to win. It drives me nuts when everyone's like, oh, you want to get a high pick, so on and so forth. We've been doing that for how many years now? Like, the Bulls team, they have a lot of young talent. They finally have a roster put together that fits Billy Donovan's type of play. Like Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, Alonzo, like that worked till Alonzo got hurt, and then look what happened. Now you have a young roster. You have Matez, you have Kobe, you have Zach Collins. You have so many guys on the roster now that just flow and play that college-style offense of small guards everywhere, but it works. And that's why we've seen them be 9-3 in the last 12 games, beating really good teams, and they've had some luck along the way, no doubt about it, but they've won too many games now in order to have a higher lottery percentage. And honestly, I hate that the NBA does a lottery. It does make it entertaining when everyone sees the little ball pop up and it's like, oh, the Bulls got it or whoever got it, but you play to win. It's a little different in the NFL when you can for sure lock in a spot, but in basketball, just the way it is and how fast the game and how many games there are, you just want to win as many games as possible and go to the playoffs, because Chicago, one of the best basketball cities in the nation, if not the world, you should always have a good roster out there. And they finally have it. Why are we just going to be like, oh, yeah, we have some talent to keep rebuilding on next year, but we're going to say the same thing next year and the same thing the following year? Just win ball games now while you're winning. Go to the playoffs, and anything can happen in the playoffs. We've seen it with the Bulls when they were the 8th seed against the number 1 Celtics back in 2007 or 8. And D Rose, Kirk Heinrich led it to Game 7 in one of the most entertaining series ever. Let the Baby Bulls 2.0 do it again. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, and what Kobe White just got Eastern Conference Player of the Month, I believe. He's been on fire. I love that for him. He's kind of had the grunt under the stick the last couple of years in Chicago, and with Zach LaVine kind of taking over a lot of minutes. This is all just kind of my perspective as a Bulls fan from a distance. So fact check me if you need to. More diehard Bears, but and then the rookie there, Mateus. How do I pronounce his name? He's
Montez.
He's been cooking. He's been cooking. And then Giddey,
Hinsdale's finest.
Giddey's been cooking. He's going to need a new contract. He probably earned his contract. Whether the Bulls re-sign him, we'll see. And then I think, what is it, Billy Donovan? I think he's a really underrated coach. I like what he's done. I liked what he did before with DeMar and LaVine. And now that he kind of has those two out of the roster, I think he does a really good job. And I feel like he takes a lot of heat. But how do you feel about Billy Donovan and what he's been doing with this young group so far after post-trades?
I'm going to be really honest. Like, I was not a Billy Donovan guy when we hired him. I have not been a Billy Donovan guy until probably 2 weeks ago. And that's still a stretch. Like, he's in a good stretch right now. He's always been a playing coach. But when you did have Vooch, LaVine, Ball, DeMar, you had a really good roster of guys that you brought in. And you were red hot until Alonzo got hurt the first year that it was all put together. I think that was 2019. No, it was long. It was closer than that. I think it was 2021. I was like, man, this guy just can't pull it together. But then suddenly you see his full roster of guys that he's been a part of the draft room, that he's been putting together, that point guard style thing with one big man, kind of like he did at Florida back with Joakim Noah and everyone else was a guard. It's working now. So I'm on Billy's page for now, but that can flip real quick if the Bulls end up rattling off 5 losses in a row. So he's an okay coach. I think there's better coaches out there. I personally, for me, I wish he never got rid of Tom Thibodeau, but that's a whole nother ballgame.
Yeah, that's kind of, I was watching the Bulls a lot when we had Thibs and Jimmy Butler, and then they traded Butler and then got rid of Thibs, and it just kind of went downhill from there. But hopefully they win tonight. I'm hoping they get a playing game. It's just kind of free basketball for us. And then they're going to probably play the Cavs or the Celtics and, get swept. But I'm all for it just to get a couple games of Bulls action, and we do some live streams around that. But let's transition to the Bears. How we feeling? Just kind of like the name of your brand, just another year. This past season ended. I wasn't going to get excited. It was going to be like they need to show me on the field like it's going to be a shit show. Like this was kind of before we hired Ben Johnson. I was like, who's going to be the head coach? All this kind of stuff. And here we are, hire Ben Johnson, amazing free agency, redrink the Kool-Aid. The Bears are back, so everyone knows how I feel about the Bears right now in this community. How are you feeling post Ben Johnson hire? And we'll talk about the free agency and then get into the draft. Like, how do you feel about the Bears right now overall and some of the free agent moves they've made?
I mean, I love every move that they've made this offseason. When I had the opportunity to go to Chicago Executive and chase down Ben Johnson's plane, that's when the hype came real. Like when I saw his plane land, saw him get off of it, we were live streaming. It was me and Rashad from the Windy City Productions. And we got to see just like 60,000 people tuned in and like everyone's losing their minds. I was like, okay, the Bears are doing something that we haven't been this excited about a coach. We weren't excited about Flus. Everyone was like, who the heck is this guy? When we hired Matt Nagy, people were like, all right, like, yeah, sure. We'll see what ends up happening here. Not the case. Ben Johnson's the real flipping deal. And when that move was made, we knew he was bringing a good staff together. And that's what this team needed. Like I talk to Josh Blackwell pretty often, and he's told me, he's like, we have a good roster. We just have those couple of pieces that are missing. And honestly, like he didn't say what it was, but from a fan's perspective, it was the coaching. Proper timeouts, proper plays, proper situations. Bears haven't had that for the last couple of years. Because if you look at the Bears coaching staffs, they've been all like, all right, like these are good coordinators. That's fine. But the leader is not, he's a coordinator at best. Now you have Ben Johnson, who has been a back-to-back NFC North champion, top 4 offense the last 4 years, top 2 the last 2 years. He's just overall solid person. Guys are behind him. You hear that how much Detroit Lions players are upset that he left, especially Lions fans too. Like right there, that just led off to a great offseason. And then all the other trades that we've made so far have been fantastic, which I'm sure we'll get into in a second. But just answering your question about Ben Johnson, he's changed everything at Hallis Hall so far.
Yeah, I think why I'm a little bit more optimistic, and I still want to see what happens on the field because we are back-to-back offseason champs, and we always tell ourselves this is going to be our year, but it just happens to be just another year. And after we fired Matt Eberflus in the middle of the season, it's like, all right, maybe Kevin Warren's having a little bit more influence and maybe things are changing in the front office as we've seen before. And then when we get the big time head coach that everyone's looking to pay for and go after and make him the seventh highest paid head coach. I was like, all right, things are changing a little bit. And then thanks to Ben Johnson, I think. I'm not the biggest Ryan Poles guy. We can talk about Poles in a little bit. Our community knows my 2 cents on Ryan Poles, and we can talk about that a little bit. But when Ben Johnson got here, we started making moves for Jonah Jackson. That was kind of like a Ben Johnson move. He played with Ben Johnson before. We made moves for Joe Tooney. Unless Ryan Poles wanted to notice that you need to reinvest in the offensive line for a young quarterback 3 years into his regime, we started to reinvest into the offensive line and actually pay guys and get guys that are worth having on the offensive line and stop shopping in the bargain bin of getting the Coleman Sheltons and the Ryan Bates of the world and actually get a Joe Tooney. And I think we got a little bit lucky there with the Chiefs salary cap situation. And we did really want Trey Smith, but and they end up re-signing and franchising tag him. But feeling a little bit optimistic on what's going in that front office. And then we were talking a little bit about free agency. We got the Drew Dahlman, the center, right? We got some pass rushers, a little bit on the older side. But how did you feel after free agency and some of the people the Bears re-signed? And maybe was there someone that you thought the Bears should have went after or you wish that the Bears went after during that free agency period?
So my favorite offseason move so far, by far, Joe Tooney. You bring in a guy that's a 3-time All-Pro. You bring in a guy that's a 4-time Super Bowl champion, 4-time Pro Bowler. And on top of it, too, a lot of people don't know this, but he finished 8th in Offensive Player of the Year voting this past year. And I was like, as a guard? Dead serious. And when I found that out, I was like, wow, that is impressive. And you traded a 4th-round pick for him. We got Ryan Bates for a 4th-round pick last year from Buffalo. And when you said that, I was like, yes, which Ryan Bates is still on the roster. I'm shocked by that, by the way. I thought he was going to be a cap casualty because he had 0 dead cap and $4 million savings. But at the end of the day, he's a versatile player. He can play center and guard. But Joe Tooney was by far, when that happened, I was losing my mind because one, I was at my office and I was like, oh my God, I actually got on the train home. Wasn't supposed to do this. Got on the train home, went home, made a video, went back to work, and all within an hour and 15 minutes. My boss was like, where'd you go? I was like, oh, I don't know. But that's how excited I was about it because that made it known that the Bears were making moves. Jonah Jackson, I was a little bit skeptical about because of the injury history, getting benched. But then how highly Ben Johnson talks about him, what he did. If you look at his time in Detroit, guy was an 80-plus PFF player, Pro Bowler, didn't give up a lot of sacks, great against the run, and he just bullies guys. So your 2 guards there that we've had trouble with, Nate Davis and Tevin Jenkins the last couple of years, replaced. Drew Dahlman, I think we got him on a very respectful contract. Some people thought he was going to make $18 million. He's not even making $14 million this year. Yeah. Poles did a great job with that too. Like overall, all the offensive line moves, fantastic. I want them to make more. I want Will Campbell as our left tackle. I'm sure we can go to that a little bit. But Grady Jarrett, great signing for the defensive line, brings a lot of energy to the table. Overall, and then extending Josh Blackwell, extending Amen. Just they're doing all the right things in order to solidify a franchise moving forward. And if you look at all the contracts, when Caleb's contract is up, that's big money right there because there's a lot of cap that they can cut in order to pay Caleb, and you're going to be good for the next couple of years. So this offseason has just been awesome, and we have 4 top 100 picks. In fact, 4 top 75 picks. Ryan Poles, this is the offseason to solidify it all to be good for like the next 5 years if we do this right.
Yeah, you mentioned the contracts and that cash management. The one thing I believe he does really well is, kind of getting everyone paying the guys at the right time. So later down the road, it looks like a bargain. Hence like the Jalen Johnson deal when all these other corners started to get re-signed. I saw that a couple weeks ago. And even like DJ Moore, players like that, because when we re-signed DJ Moore, like the wide receiver market still started to go up. But you talk about the draft a little bit. Well, one thing I want to talk about, we talked about free agency that I had in my notes here is after what the Bears did in free agency, like going into free agency, the biggest weaknesses on this team was the offense and defensive line. Where do you feel is the biggest weak position group weakness on the team right now post free agency going into the draft?
Ooh, it's tough. I think the defensive tackle position, like you have Javon, you have Andrew, and you have Grady, right? But like you don't have anyone else behind them. Like you had Chris Williams, who shocked a lot of people. Zach Pickens really hasn't worked out. So I think the defensive line as a whole still needs work. We don't know what Dio's going to do. Montez Sweat had a down year last year. There's still a lot of questions there, even though Dennis Allen is like defensive line guru. So I'm pretty excited about that. The linebacker room, though. I mean, like you have TJ, you have Tremaine, but then you got rid of Sanborn. And you're like, okay, well, we have Amen as a backup, and then we have Noah Sewell, who's only played in 2 NFL games. So I think the Bears kind of missed there. I feel like they should have brought Sanborn back, even though a lot of people are saying he doesn't fit into Dennis Allen's scheme. Like players learn schemes pretty quick, especially a guy like Sanborn, who's athletic as he is. So those two right there, the first ones that pop in my mind. A sleeper one, too, is the wide receiver room. We do have Rome. We do have DJ. We went on and got a ton of guys, but we didn't get any like big name guys. We don't know what Tyler Scott's going to do in Ben Johnson's offense because he was very inactive last year. So I think the Bears might still go out and get a wide receiver in the draft, which I hope they get a guy named Nick Nash out of San Jose State, which that dude's a dog. But those are the 3 groups in order that I'm still concerned about with the Bears. And then depth position from the offensive line is a concern. But their starting row is great. But defensive line, I would go out and get a top guy still in order to solidify that room first.
No, I definitely think we need to get a little bit more depth and younger at the defensive line position for sure. And we'll get into that 10th pick here in a minute and where the Bears should go with that. And I agree with that wide receiver room as well. Not in the particular order, but just kind of saying we talked a little bit about this with Harrison Graham a couple weeks ago in Tyler Scott's role. And, how will he fit into Ben Johnson? Will he get an opportunity to get some time, or will he even make the roster come September? And I know because when we talked to Harrison is when we signed Zacchaeus from, I believe he was on the Commanders previously. So that wide receiver room, I believe, definitely needs a deep threat for sure. Roman DJ are definitely there, but we do need some depth there. Surprised you to say the running back room. What are your thoughts on the current running back room with Swift and Roschon always having concussions and a lot of talk going around the Bears maybe trying to go after Genty? And I didn't know if you saw any of the clips or stuff like that earlier from today and yesterday with the owners meeting and Ben Johnson and Poles talking, but Ben Johnson's been very transparent. I love how he interacts with the media since the day he's gotten signed. A little bit different personality, someone that can actually talk to the media and doesn't get stage fright, and he's like a Toastmasters class, unlike Eberflus, where he wouldn't answer anything for us. But Ben Johnson's been very transparent, and he talked about running backs and how this draft class has a depth there and all the unique types of players there. What are your thoughts on the Bears' current running back room, and do you think they need to upgrade there? And not to say should they pick Genty with a 10th pick because we'll get there, but what are your current thoughts on the Bears running back room right now with Swift and Roschon?
We brought back Travis Homer. He's more of a special teams guy, though, so he can be athletic out of the backfield. But a lot of people and just Bears fans definitely don't like when I talk about this, especially some of my followers. But I feel like I'm starting to sell some people on the thought DeAndre Swift's not a bad running back. A lot of people are like, oh, we overpaid this guy. Like, we could have got Saquon Barkley. Like, no, we couldn't. He made way more money. And, like, DeAndre Swift still had over 1,300 yards of total offense this past year while playing injured. He had almost 1,000 rushing yards with that offensive line, 3 different offensive play callers during the season. He still did a great job. I think DeAndre Swift is very slept on as a running back. That's why, like, when I look at our room, I'm like, okay, we got a bruiser and Rashawn Johnson, which, again, he wasn't even used, right? We just used him in goal line situations. Like, Rashawn's got moves. If you look at his tape from Texas, guy can move. I mean, he's a big dude, runs a little bit slower of a 40 time, but at the end of the day, like, very solid runner as well. I also know we are going to take a running back in this upcut. We didn't take one in free agency. We are 100% taking one in the draft. I'm not saying it's going to be Genty. I'm just thinking that it's a Caleb Johnson from Iowa kind of guy. It's a, Cam from Arizona State. There's so many running backs in this draft that the Bears can get with one of those later picks that isn't 10 that can do the exact same thing as Ashton, like, or close to it. Ben said it himself today and yesterday, was that, hey, like, we're looking for a guy that can do it all, be dynamic out of the backfield, that can protect Caleb from a blocking perspective, that can receive as an emergency outlet, and also tear it upfield. And honestly, like, when he said that, I'm like, there's like 5 guys you can name in the draft that are going to go in the top 75 for sure, but one of them is going to land with the Bears. So I'm not worried about the room. I know that the Bears are going to take one, and I'm very confident in it. But, there's still some sleeper running backs in free agency. You got, J.K. Dobbins or whoever from L.A. He's still in free agency. Like, Bears don't get their guy there. He's still on the market. Sign him to a 1-year, a couple $1 million contract. Nick Chubb was linked to the Bears a few times this offseason. And I was like, yeah, like, all right. I mean, I'll take the low risk, high reward on a guy that's a 4-time Pro Bowler. And him and DeAndre Swift at Georgia were dogs, no pun intended. But like, there's options out there for the Bears. So I'm not worried about the room too much. That's why I didn't say that. But I know that we're going to get into running back talk in a minute. But that's my reason why, like, when you said, where's the weakness? I'm like, running back room's going to be just fine.
Yeah, so let's talk about that number 10 pick. You kind of sneak peeked a little bit with you wanting Will Campbell, I believe, is what you were trying to get at there with that number 10 pick. Talk about this number 10 pick. Who would you want for the Bears to pick with number 10? Do they pick at 10? Do they trade up? Do they trade back? Let's talk about that a little bit because there's a lot of talk about that around Bears social media right now.
So I am all on the trade, and Ryan Poles hinted at it today when he was asked during his presser. Trade back. I am begging him to trade back. I really don't think that any of these top 3 guys, if Will Campbell's there, like I'm flirting with like, all right, take him. Like I said it earlier in the show, but like, gotta take him. But man, like if we can trade back 3 or 4 spots or even 10 spots, get another second or third round pick. Because Ben Johnson said it best today. And Ryan Poles, like these guys clearly like talk before they go to the media, like, hey, what are we going to say? They said that there's only a few blue chip guys in this draft. They're all probably going to be gone at number 10. Why are we going to still take a guy that isn't a blue chip player at 10 unless someone somehow ends up there? And why not get another second or third round pick? Heck yes, please. I don't care if you take a guy at 20. You got Kenneth Grant at number 20. You can take. That's your defensive tackle right there. You have other different. There's so many offensive linemen. You can take a Tyler Booker if you want to be behind a Joe Tooney and Jonah Jackson and learn behind them. There's just players that the Bears can take at 20, or like within the 10 to 20 range if they trade back, while getting another third round pick. Because Poles said it. There's guys in the first 50, the first 60, and first 70 that can still be starters in this league, even if they're drafted on day 2 or 3. And I'm like, please and thank you, trade back. If we're sticking at 10, if Will Campbell's there, you're taking him. If Mason Graham is somehow there, you're absolutely taking him. If Ashton's there, it's just like that really awkward, like, yeah, it's a luxury. Would love to have it, but the Bears still have some needs at edge. They still have some needs at defensive tackle. Trading up, it would have to, it's just that like we still need depth. And I would rather have day 2 guys be depth pieces versus day 3 guys be depth pieces. So I'd rather save as many of those as possible unless you're using a pick from next year. But I don't see the Bears trading up. I'm out on trade up. I'm completely in on trading back, and staying put is like, okay, it really depends on who's there.
No, I get your logic there with the trade back. And I know this is not the deepest draft class from what a lot of experts and draft analysts are saying about those blue chip type of players, and I was all on board of kind of trading back and trying to acquire more picks, but my hesitate as the weeks go by, as the nights go by, and as we get closer to the draft, and there's all these different topics being discussed online. There's a lot of talk about Tyler Warren, Penn State tight end there, and I want us to get a Mason Graham. I want the Will Campbell. I think Will Campbell would be great because we can talk a little bit about Braxton Jones if we have some time, because I know Will Campbell, they're questioning his arm length, and that might be a reason why he might get pushed to guard or whatnot, but he played in the SEC. He played for LSU started as a freshman, I believe, for 3 or 4 years. Like that man is a dog, and if you can have him as a left tackle, even competing with Braxton or letting Braxton have a fair shot at a competition once he gets healthy, that's where I would want to go. But the sexy pick, I'm kind of getting sweet talked into maybe a Tyler Warren. Like, he can pass, he can run block. He's not like a Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers is essentially a receiver, but Tyler Warren can block and catch and make all these open field plays, what a lot of people are saying. So I was like, I kind of like the idea of kind of getting like a George Kittle-esque tight end. But the Mason Graham on the defensive line, those are like my top 2 options, is the Will Campbell, Mason Graham, and then if we want to get cute, I'm for Tyler Warren. Tyler Warren over Genty if we're going to kind of go that route, if it was either Genty or Tyler Warren, because like you mentioned, the depth in this running back draft class. But I was all for kind of trading back at the beginning and acquire more picks, but the draft is not that deep, and I don't really trust Ryan Poles too much with draft picks, to be honest. I know we'll acquire more draft capital, but he hasn't been the best, in my opinion, with a lot of the opportunities he has to draft, even in the second or third rounds. Hence, when he trades away a fourth for Keenan Allen or Joe Tooney, I'm totally fine with that, even if it's a 1-year rental, because when he does have a 4th-round pick, he gets a punter. And I don't want another punter, and I don't trust.
What's wrong with Tory Taylor?
We're going to. Nothing against Tory Taylor, but at the 4th round, I mean, Puka Nacua went in the 4th round. You can get talent at the 4th round. So I don't have the most confidence in Ryan Poles' draft discretion, but hopefully with Ben Johnson there and the staff that he brought in, maybe they can evaluate and scout and prospect a little bit better. But I've been getting a little kind of googly eyes for a Tyler Warren if we did have to go that route, but definitely want that Will Campbell, Mason Graham option if one of them are there. So we got to cheer for a quarterback, Jackson Dart to go up, Shedeur Sanders to kind of have all these luxurious options, but we'll kind of have to see him on draft day.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, Tyler Warren would be a dog with Cole Kmet. Like, that would just be lethal. Tyler Warren reminds me a lot of Jeremy Shockey, if a lot of people remember who that was on the Giant. He's on the Giants, Saints. Dude was a dog, and like when I watch Tyler Warren play, I'm like, that's Jeremy Shockey's like kid probably. Some long lost child. Like, that guy just has it in him. So I agree. If we want to get cute, Tyler Warren would be a pretty sweet pick at 10.
It was weird. I had a dream a few nights ago that George Kittle was in a Bears uniform and we were cheering George Kittle on. So maybe that's a sign, kind of like getting a Tyler Warren or like a George Kittle, so to speak. But are you in Chicago? Are you in Chicago or are you elsewhere?
I'm literally right outside of it. If I walk 3 blocks, I'm in Edison Park. So like technically I'm right outside the city. I was born in the city, Rogers Park, and then I moved to the suburbs when I was a kid. And then now, since I graduated school, I moved around a little bit. My 9-to-5 job requires me to travel a lot, so I have to live by O'Hare Airport.
Okay.
But I am moving to the city in May, which I'm super pumped about.
Very cool. That's exciting. I love Chicago. My dad's born and raised in Chicago. I live in New York, but I try to visit Chicago once a year. The reason why I asked, because some not news, but talks and discussions came out with Kevin Warren and the Arlington Heights versus downtown Chicago Stadium. For someone that like me that just travels in and doesn't really impact me too much as a resident of Chicago where the stadium is, but where would you like the stadium to be? We can talk about the stadium. Like, would you prefer it to be in Arlington Heights where you can make a whole huge like second city, or would you want to try to cram it into the big city with the beautiful lake view and the pros and cons to that?
I mean, like, the skyline's iconic for Chicago. Like, it's just so sweet, especially when you're at the stadium and you're in the south end zone. You're looking out, you see like South Loop's new high rises they built when they first redid the stadium back in the early 2000s. And you're like, man, this is sweet. But getting there is an absolute nightmare. There's no L line. There's one Metro if you're coming from the south that gets you. But like, most of the season ticket holders are northwest of the city. And that's why Arlington Heights makes so much sense. And like, I've seen like Gary, Indiana. I'm like, that's a joke. Like, whoever wrote that article, I listen, it's content creators, like clickbait's what it is. You know, like, people got to do what you got to do to get views and pay your bills. But like, you know, I was like, all right, that one's fake. But like the Michael Reese Hospital, like going to the south side, I got family that live on the south side, and they're like, please, for the love of God, do not put it there. Like, the Bears would have to like make a heck of a deal. And there's still no L line that goes over there. So you're not solving the commuting issue. And there's a law that you can't build an L line on the east side of Lakeshore Drive because it obstructs the view. It's so stupid. They were going to allow it for the Olympics. They won't allow it for the Bears. I am all in on Arlington Heights. Like, I think that like there's so many teams. Like you said, you're from New York. Like the Giants and the Jets, they don't even play in New York. I believe they play in Jersey, right?
Yeah, they play in New Rutherford. Yeah.
Exactly. So like the Bears will be 26 miles. You can see the skyline from Arlington Heights, by the way. Like, literally, when I'm driving south to Illinois State, where I went to school, and like I'm on the highway going up the ramp, and I'm like, I see the skyline. I'm like, okay, like there's your skyline. Like, be happy about it. But 337 acres, along with 2 metro lines, 2 highways, 2 private airports. You're right by O'Hare. It just is a commuter's paradise to go there. And like, you can build a legit football city, something that no one else has. Like, Green Bay got really cute, made a village, and it's like 1 block long. Bears could like crush them. So I am all in on the Chicago Bears going to Arlington Heights. If they were to pass every law or like exempt every law, whatever, in the city of Chicago to build an L line to make it super easy to go there, great. But at the end of the day, like, getting to Soldier Field stinks. Start right, building in Arlington Heights. Maybe in 40, 50 years, you rebuild it back in the city when you have the opportunity to. But also, Kevin Warren is so stuck on building on the lake. literally 4 blocks away from the lake, there is a 78-acre plot of land, which is the newest district of the city, that they could build the same exact thing that they want to build in Arlington Heights with an L line, with a metro line, with everything. But Kevin Warren's like, it's got to be on the lake. And it's like, dude, come on. Just find a spot and dig. That's all I want to hear at this point.
Yeah, he's trying to do what he did in Minneapolis. I mean, I've seen that stadium. I haven't been inside, but when I used to, one of my first jobs out of college, the training was in Minneapolis, and we went to a Wolves game. But you could see the new stadium in the middle city. I think he's really trying to do that. But I think the opportunities are endless for Arlington Heights because it's a huge lot of land. Me and my father try to hit a Bears game in every stadium. It's kind of like a bucket list we have together, and the last game we went to was this past season in Arizona. And it's not in the Phoenix. It's in the suburbs, kind of like, I guess, in Arlington Heights-esque. And it's literally a second city. Like, think like Sims, like a Sim City. And, like, there's, like, all these hotels. There's malls. There's, like, Twin Peaks. There's everything. They're even building, like, a water park. And it's all spread out, but not too far away. You can walk to everything, golf carts, everything. So I think that, I mean, for me, I'm going to just fly into the major city, get a hotel that's near whatever stadium, whether it's downtown Chicago or Arlington Heights, and call it a day. But I really try to get the perspective of a local Chicago resident because a lot of people have their thoughts on it. Some people want it in the city. Some people want it in Arlington Heights. But I just want to talk about that quickly because it did come up when Kevin Warren was talking at the owners meeting, and it's been a topic of discussion for how long? I mean, I'm sure you guys hear in the news a lot there locally, but even from a distance, I can see it on social media all the time.
Yeah, it's crazy. Just get a shovel and start digging somewhere. You already own Arlington Racetrack site. Just get it done. Like, I think people will be upset who want it in the city for like 2 hours and then they'll forget about it. And then when they go to the next Bears game, they're like, this is amazing. I'm like, oh, wait, you were hating on it like 2 months ago. So anyway, yeah, I'm all for Arlington Heights.
And have you seen any of the new rule changes that were being passed or trying to be passed today? Like the chain gang is going to be like replaced with like some technology like they do in tennis and soccer, I believe. I don't know. I mean, tennis has been doing that for how many years? 20 years when that goal line technology. And then the touchback, I think, is interesting. Being moved up to the 35-yard line, that might incentivize some teams to just not kick it at the back of the end zone. And tush push is possibly going to get banned. I know they kind of bookmarked it for a little bit, but have you paid attention to any of the new rules and have any thoughts on it? And there's an overtime rule change also.
Yeah, I mean, not really too much. I saw the touchback one. I was like, all right, sweet. Like, we can see some returns finally. And we have a really good special teams unit. So I looked at that. I was like, all right, sweet. We got speed. We got guys that can return it. Perfect. What did they call it? The Hawkeye, like the Hawks view or something like that of like for moving the football. I'm honestly going to miss when the officials were doing that because like it brings like that intensity to the game. Like that thing's going to point blank and be like, oh, yep, you're short or you're good. Like it's like, like when they bring the chain gang out and you're just like, and it's like, you placed it too far back and like fans get into it. Like, that's why I'm going to be like, man, but I get why it makes the game more legitimate. It helps, who knows how many games it could have overturned in the NFL's history. We'll see how long it lasts. They might get rid of it and be like, this is too analytical. But then at the end of the day, Vegas is going to be like, no, we love this. Keep it up. So we'll see what ends up happening.
Yeah. I mean, that game against the Chiefs and the Bills, I don't know if you remember in the game where Josh Allen tried to do a tush push, and it's really hard to tell if he made it, if he crossed the line or not. So it's definitely going to have a major impact on the game, and look forward to seeing that. And then I believe they changed some of the overtime rules, and maybe the onside kick rule. I hate the onside kick rule where they have to announce that they're doing an onside kick. It's the stupidest thing in the world. The whole point of an onside kick is the element of surprise. The Saints want to have beat the Colts in 2008 or something if it wasn't for them onside and kicking in the beginning of the second half. So like I hate that rule, so hopefully they change that. But I just want to quickly touch base on that a little bit. And have you looked at the schedule next year? How many games do you try to attend while you're in Chicago?
So it's really hard for me because I'm very invested in making content now. And, the name of the game is if you ain't first, you're last, kind of getting a post out. And going to a game, like, it's tough. Like, I would have to get, like you were saying, the closest hotel to the stadium, set up before the game, literally sprint out, probably miss the last couple of minutes to be able to live stream right after or anything. So honestly, I go to preseason games. I try to go with my dad once a year. That's kind of our thing, just so it's warm out, it's not cold, whatever. I used to try to go to a game a year. Unfortunately, I don't anymore because I've become very committed to this. But looking at the schedule, I was like, all right, there's some teams that I would like to say. But also, I usually host watch parties in the city. We try to get a couple hundred people to come out to a local Chicago bar, which we're usually at Rizzo's Barn in Wrigleyville, if anyone's ever been there before. And so it's tough for me to go to games, even though I'm right there. So my goal is to eventually have a place in South Loop or wherever they end up being. So I literally could just walk right over and be like, all right, we're good to go. Looking at that schedule though, man, Bears have the second hardest schedule this year. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun, but if I do go to a game this year, to answer your question, it's gonna be Dallas, because I want to bring a sign that boos Matt Eberflus from any rafter possible. So the Dallas Bears game at home, I'm gonna try to go to if I go to any games, the regular season games.
That's gonna be a home game, right? I was gonna say the Dallas Stadium's beautiful. That was one of my first games I've been to when it first opened, and a beautiful stadium. But yeah, Matt Eberflus, I think he's going to do well as a defensive coordinator over there. He's got Micah Parsons. He's got some solid players. Never discredit him for his defense. Like, his defense was always solid, but one of the worst head coaches of all time. A lot of trauma there. Don't even want to think about it. Before we let you go, because I know you only have a few more minutes, we do it with every guest. Oh, you talked about your watch party. Are you guys going to have a watch party this year? I remember seeing it on my feed last year. You guys did it at a bar with a couple other Bears creators and stuff like that. Are you guys planning to do another draft watch party?
So we're not doing a draft party this year, unfortunately, because I'm in 4 different cities in 4 days during that week for bachelor parties, for one day for a conference, 2 for a bachelor party, and then a wedding I'm going to. So we are having an opening day watch party, and then we're going to do Green Bay, Chicago, which it should be early in the season. So we're going to do that as well. So we're going to have 2 for sure. We're usually partnered with, an alcohol distributor or anything like that, but we are for sure having them this year. And we always have the Windy City Productions. We've partnered for them multiple times. So me and Rashab do it together. We have a couple other guests that come out. We're trying to get Adam Rank to come to one, Windy City Sports Cards. So yeah, we'll have a couple this year. We're pretty pumped about it.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. Keep me posted on that. Maybe I'll fly out to Chicago to pull up. So
come on by, my friend. I would love to have you there.
No, I'm always down for the content. And then we're going to do some Bears trivia. We always do it with our guests. So you got to lock in. Man. And our community is pretty, like, if you get some wrong, they're going to call you out. And we're going to clip it. We're going to ship it. So I do have some Bears trivia questions. I got you 4 Bears trivia. They're not like 1920, like Sid Luckman. Don't worry. They're relatively modern. So we'll start with this one. Who was the Bears' first overall pick in the 2004 NFL draft? How old are you?
I'm 28. So
we're
in
like the same age. Yeah, you're good.
Yeah.
2004.
2004. Who was their first pick? Tommy Harris.
Damn, my man is locked in. All right. Correct answer. 1 for 1. All right. We got question number 2. And this segment is sponsored by ChatGPT, so I'm not responsible for anything that might be inaccurate. So, all
right.
I do fact check it, but like sometimes they be giving me crazy answers. I'm like, no, that doesn't sound right. So I got to go back and look. But these should all be good. Who holds the franchise record for the most career interceptions?
Thrown or caught?
Like as a defender.
As a defender. Ooh, okay.
Thrown. I
was about to say. I was like, all right, well, ChatGPT. Okay, so caught. Ooh, I'm between two different types of teams. I'm between the '80s Bears and the early 2000s. Can you give me a hint?
Hint. It's 38 interceptions.
That doesn't help. Man,
let me see. Let's see what kind of hint I can get without giving it up.
Is it Tillman?
No, Tillman's number 3. Good guess. Tillman's number 3. I thought it was Tillman too.
It's an 80s guy, isn't it?
That's what I was just about to look up. Gary Fensick.
I knew it was Gary Fensick. I was like, man, because you said, oh my God, because back then they didn't run the ball as much. So the fact that Gary Fensick had 38 interceptions makes it even more impressive. Damn, darn. Sorry, no,
Dude, no,
I literally was
You're good to
I
swear.
literally
We're
was
a
gonna
bunch of
say that.
degenerates here.
Oh my God, I was gonna say Gary Fat. Okay, all right. Dang, I knew I should have gone with my gut. All right, next question. Man, I like these ones. These are good.
Okay, good. I'm surprised you were such an old. That's an old poll right there. So you're familiar with him. All right, all right. We might not stump you too much then. This one we got a lot of people. I went around the tailgate, the Arizona game, and did some Bears trivia with fans at the tailgate. This one stumped some people. Who holds the Bears record for most career receiving yards?
Draft just overall, not drafted, but not drafted by the Bears, like just overall.
Like just franchise record. Bears career receiving yards by a Chicago Bear. Like with the
Okay.
Bears.
With the Bears. Okay. Receiver, Marquise Robinson.
No.
Dang, who is it? Okay, wait, it's not Brandon Marshall.
Nope. He is on the leaderboard for, I believe, receptions, but this is receiving yards.
Forte.
No.
Who is it? That one you got me good.
Johnny Morris.
Oh my God! See, that just shows how great of receivers we've had. Johnny Morris is like what, 1960? What is he? A 68 Bear?
I believe so, and he had 5,059 receiving yards.
Yep, you're right. Johnny Morris. My dad's gonna kill me for not knowing that one.
You want to guess who number 3 on the list is?
Did I already say it?
No. But Alshon Jeffrey's number 3.
I knew Jeffrey was pretty up there. And honestly, like, I was very upset when we got rid of Alshon Jeffrey, but his attitude when he went to Philly kind of made up for it. But yeah, dude, Alshon Jeffrey was a dog. He had the biggest hands I've ever seen in person.
He had those crazy catches with Josh McCown and him and Brandon Marshall. Then we went back to Jay Cutler. That was an interesting year. When we should have stayed with Josh McCown, but Cutler, you had to kind of give him back his starting role, and then you had Brandon Marshall and Alshon and Martellus Bennett.
Wasn't that the year too with Brian Hoyer and Josh McCown? Like Brian Hoyer went in first, and he had like 2,300 passing yards in 5 games, and everyone was like, "Oh, why are we sticking with this guy?" And then he got hurt, and then McCown went back in. And I think that was a 2013 or 14 season.
2013 is when they were cooking. I believe 2013, and then 2014 was the bad Mark Trestman year, right?
Yeah, they fell apart. They started like 7 wins, and then
yeah, that was the game we lost like 50-0 to Green Bay on Sunday night. That was a 2014 year. Yeah.
We don't talk about those days.
All right, last question for you here, Nick. What year did the Bears draft Walter Payton?
That was 70. Was it 70? I want to say 77, but I feel like it's 78.
1975.
It was 5. No, Jordan wasn't drafted. Yeah, no. Okay, I knew it was in the 70s.
According
I just couldn't remember
ChatGPT,
exactly what.
I don't want the commenters to troll me, but yeah, I did try to fact check all those. But that's a little bit of Bears trivia. We definitely appreciate. I know you got to get going here, but we definitely appreciate your time, Nick. Appreciate you talking some Bears with us. Was plenty of fun. We hope to have you back on the show during, closer to the season. We do a lot of Bears preview with their upcoming opponent and stuff like that. So, I definitely would love to have you back and keep you in the loop on other content and doing future collabs and stuff like that. And let me know when you do those events in Chicago, because I'll fly out there, come hang out with the Bears fans and the gang. And there's a lot of people asking me in the community when I'm going to be coming up to Chicago, kind of show face a little bit for everyone to kind of hang out and do some Bears stuff. So happy to do so. It's a tax write-off for me. Expense that.
Heck yeah, man. We love it.
So I definitely would love to come hang out and do some of the watch party stuff with you guys. And appreciate your time and being on the show. And I'll be clipping everything and posting it out throughout the next couple of weeks here and tagging you. So definitely appreciate your time today.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on. Great show. Had a lot of fun. Definitely going to work on my trivia a little bit more here. But really had a lot of fun. Can't wait for this upcoming season. And yeah, I'll definitely be in touch with you when we eventually put those on the books for the watch parties.
Yeah, please do. I appreciate you, and have a good rest of your night and your week, and safe travels with your work travels.
You got it, man. Thank you very much. I'll actually be reporting all next week from Paris, France. So
Paris, France, bachelor party or
no. So No, no. I work for an international dairy company, and they're located in Paris. So I actually, during this off season when I was there in December, I covered them while I was there, and I'm going back there. So I got the whole camera gear. I just got my portable Wi-Fi. We're good to go. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. But yep, I'll be reporting from there next week. So make sure you stay tuned for that.
Is that your first time out in Europe, or at least Paris?
This is actually my, what is this, 8th time? So I've worked for this company for quite some time. So they fly me out there pretty often. I'm very, very grateful for the opportunity, but I have met a couple of my international followers out there, which is really cool. So if you got anybody that's in Paris, France, and they end up liking the channel, make sure you hit me up. We'll get a beer at a pub very soon.
A pint, as they might say.
Yeah, they say pint. I'm the American that walks in and they're like, oh, this guy. So yeah,
my girlfriend, she's from the Czech Republic, and I was visiting for a month. It was hard because Stream East wasn't working for me out there. That's like US IP or something. But I was trying to watch watch some of the games. But when I was there, they actually had on there, was when we played the Jaguars in London, so I was actually able to watch that on TV. But every other game, I had to have my buddy FaceTime me, and it's a 6-hour time difference of watching the games and submitting bets for me. So enjoy that trip and enjoy Paris. So appreciate you being on the show, and we'll be in touch for sure.
Yeah, man. Well, thank you very much. Thank you to all your followers. Great chatting with you guys. We'll see you guys soon.
Sounds good. Have a good one. Thank you, Nick.
You too, man. Bear down.
Bear down, baby.